These things can happen.
Mhm.
Dr. Patrick Porter has been on the line with us a couple of times before. We've had him here on Indiana in the Morning, and I want to talk about brain tap in a couple of moments. But the main reason for our visit this morning is to talk about sleep and how if we're losing it and if we're not getting really good quality sleep, how it can really affect our lives in a very negative way. Our visit is presented by Marcus and Mack, voted best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 4 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Almost laughed at the term, but because it sort of has a different connotation for a lot of folks, but dirty brain syndrome is your dirty brain could be the real problem if you are having problem focusing after not getting good quality sleep. It really is important, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I mean, think about it. If you were in medical school in 2015, you never learned about a system of the body that was activated during a sleep study in Denmark, where they found out we have this glial lymphatic system. And this is what we're talking about cleaning the brain, and that's a mechanism that happens during deep level 4 sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So with two-thirds of the world not sleeping, that backs up and causes a lot of problems with amyloid plaquing and all the things. That cleaning system needs to be activated at night while you sleep.
And it really does have a nice little picture that it presents to us of if your office is dirty and you don't get it cleaned out, how can you efficiently work in that office the very next day? You really do need to clean it up, don't you?
Yes. And for the listeners, just so they understand, we have what we call glia cells in the brain. These are the ones that make the connections, like through the day when we meet somebody, we have a conversation, maybe we have a good experience or a bad experience. Those connections are being made through the neural pathways. And at night, what our brain does through this cleaning cycle is that I liken it to going to a networking meeting and you're shaking everybody's hand. At the end of the night, you want to wash your hands. Well, we want to wash these brain cells off, and it does it through the spinal fluid. It washes up every night as you sleep. Your skull actually does respirate or breathe, and it pumps it through the brain, and then it washes it out. But if we're not getting that sleep that we need, that mechanism isn't being activated. And then that backup can cause foggy brain, concentration issues, focus, all the things that people are saying, hey, this is happening to me under stress, because stress is one of the biggest, of course, problems with sleep.
Is this new science that we're talking about?
It's relatively new because with the world not sleeping, because of the 24-hour news cycles and social media and just, the frenetic pace that people get up in the morning and they're just hitting the ground running, and they're not. There's no real plan for the day. The brain is just in a state of chaos and incoherence. So they're finally putting the research into sleep, and they know that if we can solve the sleep problem, then we can solve a lot of the problems that people are having out there in the world today.
Well, it's interesting to me from a number of different aspects. First of all, for folks who are still out there competing in the game and they're involved in business or in education or whatever it is in their active work life, it obviously has an implication there. Does it also have for older folks a possible implication in terms of Alzheimer's or dementia?
Well, this leads to it because stress will be the first thing that happens. And then that plaquing that I'm talking about, if you don't clean it out, that causes those, they call them dendrite connections in the brain, those connections, the memories are still there. The concentration and focus is still available. But the problem is, like you said, the office there's too much stuff between you and the operating system. So the brain isn't getting washed out. So as we get older, this plaquing builds up, and we have something called neural pruning that happens from the moment we're born. We start pruning our brain, which means we start disconnecting. I jokingly say that we're the smartest we'll ever be when we're born. And as we age, we unplug the brain. And so the brain will take the path of least resistance. So we need to energize the brain. That's why I wrote the book, Brain Fitness Blueprint, is to teach people that they can do simple exercises every day. It doesn't even interfere with their day-to-day life. They can keep their brain at peak performance.
All right, I want to get into that with you in a second or so, but I do also want to ask you, we're talking amount of sleep, but we're also talking quality of sleep, are we not?
That's right. And when you talk about these athletes that are, racing down hills at 90 miles an hour and they just see somebody have an accident, on the hill and things like that, their brain has to calculate all that. Most of them have the capability of taking fear and making it just data. But the average person doesn't have that skill set because they've never faced those challenges. And our brain was not designed for the life we're living today. So we have to train the brain for the life we're living. And that quality of sleep you're talking about, if you have a sleep metrics like the Apple Watch or a Whoop or a Ring or whatever metric you're using, you need 1 hour of deep sleep and 2 hours of REM sleep to really score on these sleep apps, because that deep sleep is really critical, but so is REM. REM is when your brain compartmentalizes and organizes all the memories of your day, starts projecting your future. Whether you think about it or not, your brain is preparing you for tomorrow. But a lot of people use their default mode network, which means they just continuously do the same thing they do every day, and they don't change that thinking pattern. And then they wonder why, their best thinking brought them to this moment in time. So if their best thinking is in getting what they want, then they need to start changing that, just like you change a computer program.
Dr. Patrick K. Porter, our guest here this morning on Indiana in the Morning. You and I, in the past, have discussed my very poor sleeping habits. Sometimes I generally get between maybe 4 to 4.5 hours of sleep a night. When it gets to heavy basketball season, when I'm out all night and then back up at 2 o'clock in the morning, that's not good because you're going on 2 to 3 hours worth of sleep. And when it becomes habitual for somebody, and that's the way that they've lived their life for decades, as I have, there's harm that's being done, and it sort of gets institutionalized within your brain, doesn't it?
Yeah, we normalize it. We start thinking that, I'm just a poor sleeper, or, most babies don't have a problem sleeping. So it's innate. It's part of our neurophysiology. So the thing is that what I tell people is if you're not sleeping well, they're not using techniques like brain tap, then they can use a breath technique, the 4-8 breath. Breathe into the count of 4, breathe out to the count of 8, even if you're only getting 4.5 hours sleep. In fact, our military says that our boys and girls out there that are, protecting us, they only need 4 hours of sleep, but they're 19 and 25 years old. Mm-hmm. As we get older, you might need a little bit more sleep, but when people are thinking 8 hours of sleep, some people need 8 hours. You might regulate at 5 hours or 6 hours. The lifespanning institutes and things like that through research show 6.5 hours is optimal for longevity, but it has to be efficient sleep. We did a study I'll just make this comment. We did a study with coal miners in Australia. Their average sleep time before the study was 10 hours in bed every night, but they only got 1 minute on average of deep sleep. So they weren't really sleeping. They were just laying in bed. So we had to train their brain to sleep again because they don't have their circadian rhythm. Our physiology, or our DNA, if you want to call it that, it represents with the sun. They call it the circadian rhythm. Mm-hmm. So when the sun goes down, we should be slowing down, turning off the lights, getting ready for sleep. But a lot of people, they just continuously watch the next version of Netflix, or whatever they're doing on television. They just keep watching and stimulating, and the brain will be compliant, but you'll suffer in the long run.
Yeah. All right. So you said a word there a couple of moments ago, and I used the word too when we began our conversation, brain tap. BrainTap.com. Tell me about it. Tell me how it can help us.
Well, what it does is our bodies have something called mirror neurons, which means in our environment, we know this in science now, so this isn't a belief. Your environment affects your cellular behavior. So if we can calm down that, we use light, sound, and vibration to train the brain, and we have plenty of peer-reviewed journals that are on PubMed that they can go and look at brain tap, but we're researched all over the world, and what we show is that you can train the brain at any age. So whether you're 90 years old or you're 4 years old, you can start training your brain for specific outcomes, like learning for the children, sleep for the adults, whatever it needs to be. There's a different brainwave pattern that needs to be trained for each of them, and at BrainTap.com, they can download a free trial. Doesn't cost anything, 14 days. Most people report back, 90% of people report back they've had their best night's sleep over that 14-day period. So, it's free. Go ahead and try it. Let's get you sleeping again, get you healthy.
Absolutely. BrainTap.com. You also mentioned the book that you authored on this whole topic. Tell us again about it and how we might get our hands on it.
Yeah, you can go to any of your bookstores in your neighborhood, or you can go online, of course, to like Amazon or Barnes and Noble or something. It's called Brain Fitness Blueprint. And what I did was, with my partner in the book, Rashika Shikri, is we took the ancient traditions and we talk about modern technologies and our modern lifestyle. Because in ancient times, we didn't have this problem. You know, we'd meet at the communal fire. We would burn the logs. Nobody went out and binge watched logs. When the logs burned out, we went to bed. You know, so we had certain things we do now. Nobody's going to get rid of their cell phones or their big screen televisions. So we need to start adapting our brain for this world. And that's what we wrote about in Brain Fitness Blueprint is how do you get your brain fit for today's world, because it was designed for a world that we're not living in right now.
BrainTap.com. Dr. Patrick K. Porter has been spending some time with us this morning, and we appreciate you so much. Thanks for joining us here this morning on Indiana in the Morning.
Thanks for having me.
There you go. Dr. Patrick K. Porter. Got to get your sleep, and it has to be good quality sleep. It's Indiana in the Morning on WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com.